Okay, chapter 7, everybody. Section 1. Oh, chapter 7 is all about rational functions. Rational means fraction. Okay, so section 1, multiplying and dividing fractions. Okay, so just a quick reminder, when you multiply, all you do is multiply straight across. And again, if you have a fraction, 0 in the denominator is not allowed. So that's what these two restrictions are. Then when you divide, you multiply by its reciprocal. So you have A over B divided by C over D is equivalent to A over B times D over C. So that's the reciprocal of your divisor. So then you multiply it across after that. So you get AD over BC. That's how they got this answer here. So same thing, when you have a fraction, zeros are not allowed in the denominator. Okay, same thing. This is a study guide, so the front page, it's already done for you. So you can just look through it if you don't understand my examples on the next page. These are already done. They show you all the baby steps. Okay, so let's go over the ones that I added. So here's the example. So let me sorry, since they're so tiny, I'm gonna try to zoom it in. Okay, so number 1, negative 2ab squared to the third divided by 20ab to the fourth. So that's just divide. So this one's just simplify because it's only one fraction. So again, if you forgot, it's power to power, you multiply. So you have to distribute all the power of 3 to each base inside the parentheses. Sorry. So this is equivalent to negative 2 to the third. That's negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 is negative 8. A to the third. B squared to the third. So you multiply, that's B to the 6. The denominator stays as is, 20ab to the fourth. And then reduce it or simplify. Start with the coefficient. Negative 8 over 20 is negative 2/5. And then you have a to the third divided by a. So when you divide, you subtract the powers. So 3 minus 1, you have 2 more in the numerator. So you have b squared. Then b to the 6 divided by b to the fourth. So you have 2 left. And there's more in the numerator. So b squared. So final answer, negative 2a squared b squared over 5. So that's your final answer. So I'm just going to highlight it. So that's the answer. Okay, number 2. Again, so here we have a fraction divided by a fraction. So again, when you divide, you multiply by its reciprocal. So we're going to rewrite it as multiplication. The divisor, which is the second one. So the first one stays as is. 6xy to the fourth divided by 25z to the third. Multiply it by the divisor's reciprocal. So that's 5y over 18x z squared. Okay, here you can multiply first and then reduce. For me, I like to reduce first so that it makes the numbers smaller. So when you reduce, you cancel. So as long as you reduce a numerator to a denominator, it can't be two numerators, okay? You can go directly right underneath, or you can go diagonal. As long as you're reducing a numerator to a denominator. So 6 and 18 can be reduced to 1/3, correct? And then 5, I like to start with the numbers, the coefficients. So 5 and 25, that's 1/5. And then you do one variable at a time. So I'll start with the x. There's an x here, an x here, one each, so that will cancel. So that's gone. You can put a 1 also, but not necessary. Okay. And then y to the 4th here. The y here is in the numerator, so I can't reduce that. They're both in the numerator. Okay, the next variable is z. The z's are both in the denominator as well, so you can't reduce that one. So you're left with, so you can rewrite it or you can just multiply right away. I'm just going to show you baby step by rewriting it. So that's the same thing as 1y to the 4th. This step is not necessary. Over 5z to the 3rd times 1y over 3z squared. And then you multiply straight across. 1 times 1 is 1. If it's 1, it's not necessary to write. So that's y to the 5th. 1y to the 5th, or y to the 5th, over 5 times 3 is 15z to the 5th. Same basis, you add the powers. So that's 15z to the 5th. Make sure my answer is good. So that's good. Okay. Number 3. Okay, this might be a new notation for some of you, but this is the same as divide. It's called a complex fraction. It's a fraction over another fraction. That's just divide. Another way of writing divide. So this is the same as x to the 3rd y squared z over a squared b squared divided by a to the 3rd x squared y divided by b squared. So fraction over fraction is divide. You don't have to write this. You can skip this step because you should know that's divide. So when you divide, you multiply by its reciprocal. So the numerator, the first fraction stays as is. A squared b squared. Now we're going to change it from divide to times by its reciprocal. B squared over a to the 3rd x squared y. Again, you can multiply first, or you can reduce first. Like I said, I like to reduce first. So there's no coefficients. So we'll start with variable x, since this is x here. So x to the 3rd, we have x squared. So that means you have 1 left in the numerator. Then y squared y. So same thing, 1 left in the numerator. Sorry. Z, there's no z. That's just that. And then b squared, there's a b in the denominator. They're exactly the same, so they both cancel out. Last variable is a squared, a cubed, but they're both in the denominator, so you can't reduce that. So you're left with xz over a squared times, if there's nothing left here, you put a 1. 1 over a cube. And then multiply straight across. That's, oops, I forgot something, right? Y. There's a y there. So that's 1 times xyz, so xyz over a squared divided by a to the 3rd, that's a to the 5th. So that's your final answer. xyz over a to the 5th. Okay. Now we do the harder ones. These are harder because they are polynomials that are more complicated than monomials. These are monomials. There's no plus or minus in between like this. There's a minus there, minus, minus, plus. Over here, it's just monomials. Okay, for this one, you have to factor. So factor first. I'll move it higher. So please factor first, okay? Okay. So 3m cubed minus 3m, that they have a GCF of 3m. Take out a 3m, you're left with m squared minus, if you take out a 3m, you have to multiply it by 1. If you take the whole thing away, you have to multiply it by 1. Okay. Over 6m to the 4th times 4m to the 5th. That's a monomial, you can't factor it. This one, nothing in common, m plus 1. Okay, you see this is a binomial. It's best to put in a parenthesis because they're together. Okay, so next, this is still factorable right here. This is a difference of perfect squares. So you can factor that. Hopefully you remember your rule. If it's a difference of perfect square, it's exactly the same except for the sign. M plus 1, M minus 1 over 6m to the 4th. Okay, and then m plus 1. Now you're gonna cancel just like what we did here. Common factors, we're gonna reduce. Okay, so these are monomials. So 3m, you can reduce with 6m to the 4th. 3 and 6, that's 1/2. M to the 4th and m, 1. So that leaves you with 3 in the denominator. Okay, m plus 1 is together. A lot of students would cancel it this way, m and m, 1 and 1. Can't do that. It's a binomial, so you have to cancel it with a binomial. So m plus 1 can be reduced with this m plus 1 in the denominator. They cancel out. Okay, and then m minus 1, there's no binomial in the denominator. Okay, here 4m to the 5th. You can reduce it again with the 2m cubed. So we're going to reduce that again. So this becomes 4 and 2, that's 1 and 2. M to the 3rd, m to the 5th. That leaves you with squared in the numerator. Okay. So just to save space, I'm not going to rewrite it. I'm just going to go straight across, multiply straight across. So 1 times m minus 1 times 2m squared. Multiply the monomials first. That's 2m squared times m minus 1 over the denominator. They're all gone. They all cancel, cancel, cancel. So like that. You don't have to put this fraction. You don't have to put a 1 because it's in the denominator. So we're gonna leave it. And you don't have to distribute. We can leave it in factored form. So we're gonna leave it in this form, 2m squared times m minus 1. But there's nothing wrong if we distribute it. I will leave it in factored form. Okay, so final answer. Next one, number 5. Okay, this one I'm gonna expand. It's already factored. I'm just gonna expand it so you can see it better. M minus 3 times m minus 3. Oh, sorry. And then m squared minus 6m plus 9. You don't have to use the AC method because the numerator, the coefficient of the leading term is 1. So just ask yourself, what do you multiply to get 9? That sums to negative 6. That is 3 and 3, right? 3 and 3, negative 6 is negative, negative. Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. Negative 3 plus negative 3 is negative 6. still time, so we're going to leave it as is. So GC, this one is a monomial, and they have something in common. So always start with GCF when you're factoring. They have an m in common. So factor out an m. You have m squared minus 9 over m squared minus 9. This is a binomial also, so I'm going to put in parentheses. Okay. You can factor this because it's a difference of perfect squares, but because they're already the same, I'm just going to skip and just cancel it right there. But you can factor it to m plus 3, m minus 3, m plus 3, m minus 3, but that's the same thing, so just cancel it. Okay, here m minus 3, m minus 3, m minus 3, m minus 3, that cancels. 1 in the numerator, 1 in the denominator. So this pair cancels, this pair cancels out. So we're left with just the m. So final answer is m. Number 6. Okay, here's your trinomial. Because the coefficient is bigger than 1, I'm just going to use the AC method because most of you know how to do that. I'm going to try to create another video using trial and error because we should all know how to do guess and check as well. Okay, so do this on a scratch paper, the factoring for this, and then we're just going to copy it. So we have 16p squared minus 8p plus 1. So the AC method, your AC is 16 times 1, which is 16, right? So what do you multiply to get 16? That sums to negative 8. So factors of 16 are factors here and then sum here. So factors of 16 are 8 and 2, 16 and 1, 4 and 4. Is that it? Okay, I think that's it. Which one will give you a negative 8? That's 4 and 4, right? Negative and negative will give you a negative 8. So we're going to rewrite this one to 16p squared. Instead of negative 8, we're going to use 2 negative 4s. So minus 4p plus 1. And then group the first two, group the last two. So then take out a GCF. So the first group has 4p in common. So that's 4p minus 1. Second group have nothing in common, but because this is a negative, factor out a negative 1. They have nothing in common except for 1. So take out and then if the first term is negative, factor out a negative. So it's very important that you write this 1 if they have no GCF. You need to write that 1 or else you're going to get lost. So factor out a negative 1, you're left with 4p minus 1. If you take out a negative, the sign just switches to the opposite sign. So you did it correctly if your factors are the same inside the parentheses. So the final answer is 4p minus 1 times 4p minus 1. Or you can write 4p minus 1 squared. So let's copy that. Oops. Sorry. So this one, 4p minus 1 times 4p minus 1. If you know guess and check, it's easier to do guess and check. Okay, this is divide right here. So you do the reciprocal. So 7p to the 5th in the numerator, the denominator. Again, because the coefficient is larger than 1, let's use the AC method. Do this on a scratch paper. So 4p squared plus 7p minus 2. 8 times c is 4 times negative 2, which is negative 8. Excuse me. So factors of negative 8 that sums to 7. Right here. So what do you multiply to get negative 8? That's 8 and 1. Because it's negative, the signs has to be 1 positive, 1 negative. But I'm just going to leave it as 8 and 1 for now. Or if you want to write it down, you can go ahead. But we're doing this on a scratch paper. Oh, that's already, yeah, that's already 7. If you put negative 8, positive 8, sorry, minus 1, that's already 7. So no need to do the other ones. Negative 8 minus 1 is 7. So that's the one used. Positive 8 minus 1. So we're going to rewrite it. Instead of 7, we're going to use 8 and negative 1. So 4p squared plus 8p minus 1p minus 2. Again, group the first two, group the last two, take out a GCF, which is 4p, it leaves you to p here, plus 2. And again, here, negative 1p minus 2, no GCF, but because this is negative, you're going to take out a negative, and then the GCF is just 1. If there's no GCF, it's just 1. Okay. And then p plus 2. So final answer, 4p minus 1 times p plus 2. Because these two are the same. So take it out. And then you're left with that. Okay. So 4p minus 1 times p plus 2. So now cancel common factors. So 4p minus 1, 4p minus 1. These are binomials, so they have to be cancelled together. 4p minus 1, p plus 2. See, can you please not cancel that right there? You guys cannot just cancel the p's. They're together. Okay. So cancel those. These are monomial, so this you can. Monomial, you can just reduce it. That's 7 over 14 is 1/2. P to the 4th, p to the 5th. So you have 1p in the numerator left. Okay. So that's equal. What's left in the numerator is 4p. Again, this step right here, if you want to write it, so you understand it, you can. That, you don't have to do it. You can just give me the final answer. So start with the monomial. P times 4p minus 1 over 2 times p plus 2. Okay. Wait, double check this. For some reason, this is not matching with my answer. But should be correct. Hold on, everybody. That's my answer. Okay. No, that's correct. Should be correct. Yep. Okay. Next one. Last two at the bottom. Okay, again, these are complex fractions. The same thing as divide. So we're going to rewrite it as a... When you divide, you multiply by its reciprocal. So the numerator stays the same. This is going to be x minus 4. Again, it's a binomial, so I'm going to put in parentheses. Over x squared minus 6x plus 9. Trinomial, you can put in parentheses if you want also. But that means we have to factor that. Okay, instead of divide, we're going to change it to multiply by its reciprocal. That's going to be 3 minus x first in the numerator, and then x squared minus 2x minus 8 in the denominator. So again, put in parentheses. Okay, next is to factor. Because if you have binomials and trinomials, get factor the numerator. X minus 4. This one is, there's no coefficient here other than 1. So you just ask yourself, what do you multiply to get 9? That sums to negative 6. That's x minus 3 times 3 minus x equal over, same thing here, what do you multiply to get negative 8? That adds up to negative 6. 8 is 4 times 2, that's 6. Did I copy this wrong? Yeah, so that's 4 times 2, not 6. 6 are, I'm sorry, 4 and 2 is 6 if you add, but when you subtract, it's 2. So that's correct. So x 4 times 2 minus 4 plus 2 will give you a negative. Okay. If you look at this one here, this will cancel. Yes, you can cancel it right away. But right here, it looks like they're the same, but they're not. Be careful with this right here. You have to write it in order. That's why I have an asterisk here, double asterisk. Okay, you have to rewrite this in order so that you'll see it better. So if we rewrite this in order, this becomes negative x plus 3 if you write it in standard form. So now, if you look at these two, they're not the same, but they're almost the same. The difference is the sign. This is x, positive x, negative 3. This is negative x, positive 3. If the only difference is the sign, you take out a negative, factor out a negative from this. Okay, if the only difference is the signs, factor out a negative. So, this is already gone, so I'm just going to put a 1 because we already canceled the x minus 4. So 1 x plus 3 times x minus 3. Okay, so this becomes negative 1 times x minus 3. If you take out a negative 1, you switch the sign. Positive x minus 3. Okay. And then the denominator, we're only left with x plus 2 already because we already canceled out the x minus 4. So now you can cancel x minus 3, x minus 3. So final answer, 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. I have to write a 1 because it's in the numerator. In the denominator, it's x plus 3 times x plus 2. And there's your final answer. Okay, number 7, same process as this. It's just harder trinomials because our coefficients are not 1. So again, just let's rewrite it as multiplication first. This is divide. So when you divide, you multiply by its reciprocal. Okay. Times, instead of divide, times its reciprocal. So 5x squared plus 7x plus 2. 10x squared plus 19x plus 6. Okay. Again, just in case you forgot, I'm just going to do one of them. The rest I'll just... So again, here, do they have a GCF? No GCF, so you have to use our AC method. AC is 2 times 9, which is 18. What do you multiply to get 18? When you add it, it has to be a 9x. or 9, sorry. We're not going to use the x yet. 9. Okay, factors of 18, it's 1 and 18. That's not going to give us 9. 9 and 2. It's not going to give us 9. It's going to give you either 7 or 11 if you add it. Next one. 7 if you subtract. What else makes 18? Oh, 6 and 3. 6 and 3 will give us a 9. So that becomes... Sorry. Here. I'm going to move it here. So now it becomes, instead of... So 2x squared, instead of 9, we're going to use 6 and 3. Plus 6x plus 3x plus 9. GCF. Group the first two, group the last two. Take out a GCF. They have 2x in common. That's x plus 3. Here our GCF. It's not negative, it's positive. So it's going to be a positive GCF. If 3x plus 9, that's a GCF of 3. X plus 3. Since these two are in common, we did it right. So final answer, 2x plus 3 and x plus 3. So that's factoring the numerator of the first fraction. So 2x plus 3, whoops, x plus 3 divided by x plus 1 times, okay, I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to give you the factors here. So this, the numerator, it's 5x plus 2 times x plus 1 divided by the denominator, 5x plus 2 divided by 2x plus 3. So use your AC method to get these two answers here. Okay, and then we cancel. Again, they are binomials, so cancel them together. X plus 3, there's no x plus 3. 5x plus 2 cancels. X plus 1 cancels. So we're left with x plus 3. Okay. So 7.1, not so hard unless you cannot factor. If you cannot factor, it's hard. So again, questions just post on Google Classroom. Okay, sorry, everybody. Number 5, I copied it wrong. That's supposed to be a minus here. So that's supposed to be a minus.